calculating sales tax. Okay, so the first part that we're going to do is we're going to calculate what the real cost of something is. So when you see a tag that says $9.99, you know it's not really going to be $9.99. It's going to be $9.99 plus tax. Depending on what province you're in, tax can be different, right? So in most provinces in Canada, sales tax is added on to the selling price of most articles that we purchase. To calculate the total amount of money we spend in order to buy something with sales tax, we must remember the following equation. Original price plus the sales tax is equal to the total cost. So we need to figure out how much money. So we can figure out that the tax might be 13%. Right? So if the tax is 13%, we don't just throw in the number in there. We actually have to find out, we have to convert that percentage of the sales tax into a dollar value. Okay? So in other words, what we're going to do is we're going to try to find the percent of a number. That's really what we're going to find. So let's look at the first sample problem. Okay? So a t-shirt from Hollister costs $22.99. If the sales tax is 13%, what is the total cost of this t-shirt? Now, we are dealing with word problems. In word problems, you're going to have the word problem, and it will be worth more than just 1 mark. So here's where you can earn some marks without having your calculator. So let's say you didn't have one, as apparently has been the problem in this class, and even in my other period class. What's important to start any word problem is to list the information. So, my word of advice, read the word problem once, completely. Second time you read it, try to pull out information. So, what information? What's the first bit of information that comes up in the first line?
Hollister shirt costs $22.
Exactly. So, original price, right? So, original price is equal to $22.99. Now, what's the next bit of information we're given? Exactly. So, sales tax equals 13%. Right? 13% is also equivalent to what? What is it?
0.13.
0.13. I'll put that over here. Because what do you think's in between there? What do you think's in there? 13 over 100. Right? So, what is the total cost of the t-shirt? What is it asking us for? Obviously the total cost, right? So what is the total cost? Do we know it? No. That's what we try to find. That's our question mark, right? That's our question mark, or that's our X value. Now, because we have the original price, right? What we can do is do the following. You take the sales tax, okay, as a decimal value, and we are going to multiply it. Okay, let me put that in square brackets just so we don't mistake that X in tax with the time symbol. So, we take the sales tax as a decimal and we multiply it by the original price. Right? So, what is the sales tax as a decimal? We've already said it. 0.13. We're going to multiply it by the original price, which is $22.99. When you throw it into your calculator, what do you get? Give me all the numbers. 2.9887. Right? Now, what does that mean? What is that? Is that the price? So now all of a sudden a $22.99 t-shirt is now $2.9887. That's the tax, right? So what am I going to have to do with this value? What am I going to have to do with this value? Add it to the original price. Now, am I going to use that entire number? What am I going to do?
You have to make in the two-digit decimal number because this is money, not no thing.
Exactly. So we need to turn this into a money value number, right? So what numbers do I need to keep? What numbers do I need to keep?
2,
Pardon?
2,
2. Anything else?
9.
9. Anything else?
8.
8. Right? I need that. But what am I going to do then? Then I'm going to look at the number here. Right? So what is now the actual amount of the tax? $2.99. So the tax
9.
is $2.99. So $2.99 is going to be added to the original price, right? Because remember, original price plus the sales tax equals the total cost. So $22.99 plus $2.99. Any coincidences between the numbers it's purely coincidental. They're not always going to match that way. So what is the cost of this t-shirt? What is the cost of this t-shirt, Rita?
The cost is
$25.98. What's missing? Dollars, right? $25.98. Now, there's one more thing missing. What's missing? Statement, right? So there's a statement missing. So, in terms of marks, one mark I'm going to be looking for, list it. Look at that, no calculator needed. List the information. Okay. Next mark pretty much is going to be rounding down this to this $2.99. Right? Your final mark will be a combined of your final price and your therefore statement. So if you miss one of them, you will lose 1 mark. Okay, so make sure you include everything. So therefore, what would be a proper therefore statement? A proper therefore statement.
Therefore, the total price of the t-shirt will be $25.98.
Therefore, the total price of the t-shirt is $25.98. Sorry for kind of squeezing it in there. Okay. So make sure you include a therefore statement. Why do we include the therefore statement? What kind of question is it? Am I giving? It's a word problem, exactly. So all word problems and the therefore statement. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, sample problem. You want to purchase a 16 gigabyte iPad that's selling for $549.99 at Best Buy. You've saved $600 for the purchase. If the sales tax is 13% again, will you be able to afford to purchase apps? How much money will you need to save before you can purchase it? Now, it's really wordy, right? So, like I said, we read it once, and then we read it a second time to extract the information. But not all the information is valuable right away, right? So what bit of information do we come across that's important? Right off the bat. Right off the bat.
The iPad is $500.
Okay, so the original price is $549.99. Now, 16 gigabytes is a number, but it's unimportant. It's just a feature of the iPad. All right. Next bit of information that is valuable, Meryl.
Sales tax is 13%.
Okay, so the tax, and we can just write down tax, 13%, which is equivalent to 13 over 100, right? Because remember, when we did the percentages, I showed you guys the other way to do it, and I will show you that also today. That will come in handy, which is equal to 0.13, just like we did before, right? Any other information? Any other information?
You say 600.
So you've saved 600, but is the 600 going to come into play right away?
No.
No, because what are we going to need to figure out first? How much it actually is going to cost. So we've saved 600. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep that in mind and put that off to the side. All right. So remember this kind of thing. Because we want to go back to see that, because really the question isn't asking us what is the actual cost of the iPad. We want to find out, can we afford it? So is there going to be money left over in the end? So in reality, yes, we are trying to find the total cost. But the real question comes up once we've found the total cost. So the total cost, as we said, right, the tax as a decimal, multiplied by the original price. So the tax as a decimal, 0.13, multiplied by the original cost, $549.99. What do we get when we multiply them?
71.498.
4987. So this is, what units does that represent? What units does that represent? The tax, right? So it's money value. So how much of that do I need though? How many of these digits do I need? What do I need? Pardon?
4 digits.
4, right? 7, 1, and the 4, 9. We look at the number right after it, and it becomes?
$71.50.
Exactly, $71.50. This is the tax. Some people will write that down and say this is the cost of the iPad. How is it that you pay tax, which is supposed to increase the value, and it becomes cheaper? Okay, so think of the logic with some of these word problems as well when you're working on your answer. So 71.50, we're going to add that to what? We're going to take this value and we're going to add it to what? The original price. So $549.99 plus 71.50. What is the
621.49.
$621.49. Right? Now, what do you have? How much money have you saved? 600. Can we just by looking at it, can we afford it?
No.
No, we can't. Not yet. So how much more do I need to save? How do I figure that out? How do I figure that out?
Subtract the total cost from the money you saved.
Exactly. So I'm going to take this value of what the cost of the iPad is, or the iPad is with tax. I'm going to subtract it by 600. What will I get? What will I get, Gabriel? 21.49. So what does that mean in a therefore statement? In a therefore statement. Therefore. Exactly. Therefore, I will have to save $21.49 before making the purchase. Okay. So obviously we can't figure it out, but we can think of it and go, I've saved 600 bucks. Right? The iPad is $549. I should be able to afford it, and you get there and Apple's like, well, the total is $621.49 or 49. And you're like, but I only have 600 bucks. Well, you don't have an iPad. You come back when you have the $21.49. Okay. So it's really important. This is how you can figure out whether or not you can actually afford an item.